Hillsborough. Just the way. What's up? Somebody's in my dressing room. Agent Wilson, what on earth are you doing here? And in my pants drawer as well. How many times must I tell you? You're not welcome here anymore. You've served your purpose. Get out! Out! Now I say, out! Disgusting little man.
There's a chance here, a great save. They turn up from McClare. Mike Cummings, a terrific goal by Sheridan.
Rexman against Jones. Get in.
You could have two goalkeepers in there that would have trouble with saving that.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to the Wednesday Week, the Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm Lord Hillsborough, and on the line with me today, first of all, we have Mr. Sausage Arms himself, Edward. How are you, old boy?
Oh, hello, Lord H. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, keep smiling, Chip, keep smiling, and Mr. Fudge, you're with us as well.
I'm here. I've got a brew on, so excuse me if you're any slurping.
This is unusual for us, isn't it? We're recording. This is a bit of a magic of podcasting. We're recording first thing in the morning, so I'm in my pyjamas, got a brew on. It's a bit new for us, this. Normally I'm drunk.
Yeah, I'm wearing a Batman onesie right now.
And of course, we have Mr. Beastie. Are you there as well, old boy?
I am, and if you hear any slurping from me, I haven't got a cuppa. So I've no idea what it is.
That concerns me more than anything, that Beast. I'm not like you.
Drooling down your chin, old boy.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. I was thinking of then.
So, chaps, let's bat on, shall we? Of course, like we said, first thing in the morning, so we're going to gee ourselves up with a bit of a remembrance of the Ipswich game. Fantastic, chaps. Is this the spanking that Mr. Jones kept telling us that was coming? I mean, a terribly fantastical start. Eddie, first goal, brilliant.
Absolutely unbelievable. You know, what's this? Wednesday this season, actually scoring first in the first 2 minutes. It's, rarefied heights, that. That's... a fantastic goal to score as well. You know, getting it early, a ping pong in the box, and you know, coming up with a crisp strike. I think they'd refer to it as across the goal and in. Absolutely great. I don't think we need to worry too much about the build-up because it's always fairly frenetic and hectic at the start of these games. But good to see Mr. Barkley getting on the end of it, and actually quite refreshing that we've had one of those situations where, you know, the ball's pinging around a bit, and we've actually got players hanging around on the edge of the box looking to get the ball first and drive it back in there, because all too often this season we've seen, you know, going up well for the first ball, and then the second ball there's nobody in a blue and white shirt, or a grey shirt in this case, ready to pounce. So, yeah, excellent, great start.
Absolutely. I mean, as we said, we could have had a few more.
But it certainly looked in that first 10-minute spell that we were, we were going to steamroller them right from the off. And to be honest, it settled down very quickly after that. But, there were chances for Antonio, there was a chance for O'Grady. We really looked in and about it. And I'm sure Dave Jones said, I think any time you're playing a team that's struggling, you want to get them on the back foot early and get them really doubting themselves. We certainly did that. I think if there is one criticism, is that after that initial 10 minutes, I think we did the exact opposite and sat right off them, invited them onto us, and a better team might have put us under some pressure. As it happened, I think we can all agree that Ipswich are a very, very poor team at the moment, look lacking in leadership in every part of the pitch. So, I don't think we were made to pay, but I wouldn't like to see us try that again, even with a 1-0 lead against a team that's any better than Ipswich.
Absolutely. I mean, like Eddie said, we did seem to sit off. Do you think that was the plan, Beastie, to defend that 1-0, or do you think we were just switched off a little bit? It did go on for the rest of that half, really.
No, we did. It wasn't planned to sit back and soak up pressure. It just happened. We were made to look pretty average, especially across the midfield, by as Eddie says, a poor Ipswich side. We just allowed them so much possession where across the middle, it was ridiculous at times. And what made it worse, well, we gave them some really, really stupid free kicks on the edge of the box. I mean, throughout the game, we must have given them well over half a dozen in very similar positions, right on the edge of the box. And fortunately for us, they missed every single one. They never bothered Kirkland once. They were miles wide. And again, like Eddie says, a better side would have punished us, but this wasn't a better side. It's a very, very poor Ipswich side, and we did the job, didn't we? And that's all that we can ask of them.
I'm just looking at the stats here now, chaps, and possession-wise, we had 56 to their 44, which is not bad, but they still managed to get more shots underway.
Well, I think that's misleading for the start, Fudge. Like Eddie says, that first 10, maybe 20 minutes, we were excellent. Make no mistake about that. We really were excellent. And we probably, by rights, should have scored another one with the sort of attacks that we put together, the situations we got ourselves into. We should have made it count a little bit more. But I'm sure a lot of that possession would have come after we got the second, and certainly in the last 10 minutes after we got the third. Because there were one point in the second half where we must have had 480 odd passes. Is
that the official stat there? The Beastie is available up to index.
Well, I did stop counting at 482, but at one point I think everybody in Wednesday away end had a touch. It was just we because the game were pretty much over. We were relaxed and comfortable. We were just passing it about, and Ipswich were chasing shadows. So that 56% possession is probably a little bit skewed. One thing I will say is the best team won. We did deserve to win, but I know I'm a bit soft and maybe a little bit naive, and I've been called a lot worse than that, but I do feel it for Ipswich because we've seen our side play like that a lot of times over recent years, and it's not pleasant when you go in, week out, paying your money, and you see your team perform like that. It's not nice.
This is going to sound harsh, and I keep saying it all the time, every time he gets a new job. But Paul Jewell isn't as good as everybody thinks he is. He had a couple of good seasons, didn't he? It was Bradford he took up, wasn't it, into the Premier League, and then all of a sudden he had all this smoke blowing up his backside as though he's the greatest next young manager, yada yada yada. That was
He had all this smoke blown up his backside. But that News of the World report that they had on him.
I'm sure that was on the front cover, wasn't it, with his face blanked out.
Yeah.
Smoke going up his arse.
But then again, he came to manage us, got us relegated nearly. It was him. We went down from the Prem, didn't he? Then we got Paul Jewell in, and he was bloody woeful for us. Who else has he ruined in the last 10 years? He got
Derby, of course.
Yeah, and if actually he coined the phrase "doing a derby" up until somebody else did worse. I can't remember who that was. It used to be called "doing a Sunderland." Now it's called "doing a derby." And so if there's any Ipswich fans listening, I don't think there will be. I think you've done all right there getting rid of him. All right, I think it was a mutual consent thing, wasn't it? But we all know what that means. We all know.
Yeah, but look who they've got now.
I know. That was going to be my next point.
Go on then. Tell us who they've got now.
You ain't got anybody now. I've got it mixed up with another team, haven't I?
Well, I'll tell you who they've got now. They've got Mad Mick, haven't they?
Is it them?
It's official.
Yep.
Got him.
It was. I think it was nailed on. They were reporting it on Twitter, and if it's on Twitter, it must be true.
Exactly. Twitter never lied.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting one for Ipswich, isn't it? Because I think as a struggling Championship team, they probably have the same sort of profile as Sheffield Wednesday did when we were a struggling Championship team. And we got Alan Irvine, didn't we? We got the next, the number 2 that's going to step up to be a number 1. Whereas Ipswich have gone the opposite direction. They've gone for a man who's been, he's been a manager mostly in the top flight, to be fair, over the last few years. And so they're going for maybe the name brand recognition rather than actually someone who they think can do the job. So it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out for them, because they didn't look good on Saturday.
To be fair, I always think of Mick McCarthy as Barnsley's number 2. That's how I always think of him.
I think I've had this rant before on this show. I can't get on board with Mick McCarthy.
Leave him alone.
He's a professional Yorkshireman. He's just famous for being from Yorkshire.
And you say that like it's a bad thing.
No. I mean, we're jumping on the back of it ourselves. Don't get me wrong, but you know what I mean. But I tell you what, right? Ipswich haven't got a bad set of players. For example, when they signed players like J. Emmanuel Thomas and Michael Chopra, who did somebody just open a coffin?
That's where I sleep. I'm just warming it up. It's Halloween.
Yeah. Well, signed players like Michael Chopra and J. Emmanuel Thomas, and I think, is it Cresswell they've got as well?
Yeah.
The good Creswell, not the other one. Not our former Creswell. I don't know where he is now.
That Cresswell was playing at Rotherham, wasn't he? The one that got, and he was by far and away their standout player. And I thought that they would start tearing up some trees, and it's just not worked for them. It's not like they've got a bad set of players, but
Carlos Edwards as well.
Who?
They've got Carlos Edwards at
They've
right
got
back.
Edwards and Richie Wellens as well.
DJ Campbell.
Yeah. Well, we didn't talk about him. I don't like him at all.
No one likes him, but scores goals against him.
So, are we getting carried away? Is this the end of the stop the rot, or have we just simply beaten the one team in the league that was worse than us at the time?
I think that any team could have turned up against Ipswich on Saturday and turned them over. It was probably more important for us that we finally got that break, because let's be honest, the last few games we haven't been playing badly. We've deserved more out of matches than we've got, and so I honestly don't care if all we've done is beaten a poor team. Getting 3 goals, getting a clean sheet, and getting a performance that not brilliant performance. Let's not go overboard, but a performance that has been par for the last 2 or 3 games. We can actually carry on and take it into a run of a couple of home games and see what we can do. Does it mean the rot's over? I don't know, but it's certainly, for once, we've taken a little bit of confidence into our next match. So let's see if that works, because taking the same tactics into the match hasn't worked, taking the same personnel into the match hasn't worked. So let's just hope against hope, I suppose.
I agree with all of that, Eddie. We have to take it for what it is. It's 3 points tucked away that we desperately needed against a team that was in a similar situation to us. There's a lot of teams coming back into that little area down at the bottom of the table now, and we'll know more after the next game, won't we? Because the game against Peterborough on Saturday is just as vital as this one. We still need that 3 points, and then again that opens up the whole mix at the bottom of the table, doesn't it?
You are right in that pack of that bottom half pack if we pick up a win on Saturday. And that's probably the most important thing. I don't really care how it comes. The interesting thing for me is maybe that Peterborough, on paper, don't look as good a team as Ipswich, but they're on a little bit of a run of form. And so I think they are going to prove problematic. I think they are going to come and set out their stall and try and frustrate us, as away teams do. But this is a big opportunity. If you looked at the fixture list and said, you're coming off the back of playing the bottom team, who do you want to play next at home? A club like Peterborough would be right at the top of your list.
So, chaps, of course we will do a little review about Peterborough just a little later on. Back to the game. Mr. Barkley, of course, has extended his loan spell with us, or has been allowed to stay with us a bit longer. It's on a week-to-week basis, I do believe. So there's no actual timeline there, but right work, chaps. Had a blind on Saturday.
Well, we've spoken about him before, haven't we? And he is an absolutely quality player. I would have liked our midfield to have taken the game by the scruff of the neck, especially after we went a goal up. But by and large, his performance was pretty good. Not just in that game, but in the games before that. And I gush about him all the time because I really like him as a player. He brings so much to the game, and as I've said before many times, he's growing in confidence with each and every game, which is only going to be good for Sheffield Wednesday.
Absolutely agree, Beastie. I think, to be honest, I think it's been as much about, and we talked about this a few weeks ago, that we didn't have those partnerships, those understandings anywhere on the pitch. That was the main cause of us making silly mistakes, being out of position, etc. There was a lack of understanding there. I think that Semedo, Corrie and Barkley trio in midfield is actually really now starting to pay dividends. And it's Barkley that's reaping the real rewards for it, because the other two are playing for him and allowing him to be the outlet and do the things that he can do because of his undoubted quality.
We've been saying this on this show for a while, though, that we're missing a player like Chris Lines, somebody who gets his foot on the ball, and we've been saying it for weeks. And I think that now we've got a player like Barkley who doesn't mind doing that and doesn't mind driving forward. I agree with you, Eddie, completely. I think that trio in midfield, I have no idea what formation we're playing, but it worked for us on Saturday.
Right, it has to be said, chaps. I mean, we do mention it, and of course, the new boy in there, really, Mr. Corrie, he's been somewhat of a revelation. We have spoken about him again, obviously, ever so slightly before, but my word, boys, I mean, wonderful, absolutely. I mean, bearing in mind, this isn't a loan signing, this is not someone that's. This is our player, boys, and it looks like he's going to be an absolute superstar.
It does. He's only going to get better, isn't he? What is he, 18-year-old? And since he came in to the first team, he's hit the ground running, and he does look good. If you like, I'll throw a negative into it, works, because against Ipswich, I thought for long periods in the middle of the game, he was drifting in and out of the game, and it was no surprise to me when he was taken off and replaced just to freshen things up. And we did get a little bit of a lift when he went off and JJ came on. But having said that, he's a young lad. He's just starting his career, and like Barkley, he's only going to get better.
Well, I think that what that point is that Corrie would do your job. Do you know what I mean? Corrie would do what's expected of him, and I think JJ coming on the last 20 minutes, I'm a big drum banger of, even if that's a term. I'm just making these up now. It definitely sounds JJ at times can be a luxury player, and we've all said it before. When he's on his game, he's devastating. He can really absolutely attack a line and really go at players. Now, to bring a player like JJ on for the last 20 minutes, when a fullback's had or any defence has had a good old grafting game, I think is a massive weapon to have in the arsenal. And yeah, I appreciate it. Probably would give the team a lift, JJ coming on. But there's a lot of guts. There's a lot of nuts and bolts football that needs playing first before we can have that luxury player. And I think that's what Corrie does, if that makes sense.
No, I absolutely agree, Fudgy. What Corrie does, and I like him, it's a bit of a cliche, he's an intelligent player. Now, he is an intelligent player because, let's remember, he's only come into professional football now, having effectively been playing for a university side, while he's been finishing a degree. He's a thinking player, and it translates to that on the pitch. I think he doesn't find himself out of position. I agree with you, Beastie. I think he drifts in and out of games a little bit at the moment. Maybe he's not quite there in terms of having that bite and that aggression and that attack, but I think, as Fudgy says, that for that first 60 minutes, you need someone who's going to be there and isn't going to go disappearing off. And having someone like that who's sitting actually gives us a much better shape as a team. And that's, I think, kind of contributed to the upswing in performances, because having someone that's sitting there that's a fulcrum for everything, it allows the rest of the players, and we've talked about Jay Bothroyd before, and we've talked about Antonio, we've talked about JJ, those sort of players are the ones that then get the freedom to go and do extra things without being told, no, you've got to drop back in, you've got to squeeze, you've got to get back tight. For me, he's the right player to play in this system. Straight bang in the middle of midfield, doing the simple stuff and doing it well.
Well, just to move on from that, seeing how you brought him up, Jay Bothroyd, right? Saturday against Ipswich, how complete is that turnaround for that lad now? From
unbelievable.
What he's experienced from the moment he came on at Brighton to that game at Ipswich, the turnaround, it's incredible.
If he even carries on a flat line for the rest of this season, if he doesn't get any better, and I actually think he is going to, but even if he doesn't get any better, I would suspect that he'll be player of the season by the end of this term.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
My concern is that on the new football manager, he might be rubbish.
But he came over on Saturday during that game to take a corner, because he was taking all the corners, and pretty much all of them were pretty damn good corners as well when he took them. But he came over in front of the Wednesday fans in that first half and took a corner, and they were chanting his name.
Yeah.
Now, compare that to a few weeks ago, when he could do nothing right. And we spoke at length about how the fans were treating him. And then at the end of the game, they were chanting his name. And he came over, fair play to the lad, he came over, it's the second time he's done it, he came over and threw his shirt into the crowd. And now he's the hero. It's an incredible turnaround.
Speaking of throwing your shirt into the crowd, I know it's another team, but did anybody see that the Arsenal player, I think it was Koscielny, at 90 minutes, he's took his shirt off, thrown it into the crowd, and somebody's nudged him and said, hang on, we've got extra time to play yet. And then he stood there in front of the crowd going, can I have my shirt back, please? And somebody's had to get him back. Yeah.
Oh dear. They might get paid lots and lots of pennies, chaps, but they're not the brightest in the book, the old footballers. So, gentlemen, like I said, not what we call an emphatic win, a very good win with exactly the medicine that we needed. And like I said, we're getting there, slowly but surely. We are starting to come back now. One thing that did concern me so slightly while I was reading reports this week was the first time that I heard the phrase Sheffield Wednesday they had a good win of what could be their relegation rivals. Now, I don't like that phrase. It's very early on in the season to be using that phrase, but it is out there. Shall we ignore that, chaps? Are we looking to push on from this, or do we have to concede that we are going to be down there?
It's not going to be easy, is it? It's not going to be as easy. I mean, when we first came on this season doing the podcast, we were all... like every Wednesday fan, we were full of enthusiasm, fresh start, new players in. We were unbeaten, and everything was looking rosy. And I think you lot all spoke about top six and promotion, and I steadied the ship. We'll settle for consolidation. That's how I remember things, anyway.
Yeah, in your mind.
Being the steadying influence that I am, now we're facing reality. And I think there can't be many Wednesday fans now that would accept, I don't know, mid-table mediocrity, if you like, just to settle into this division and then regroup for next season. There can't be many, surely.
I think mid-table is a realistic assumption of where we'll end up. I think for me certainly anyway, the last 3 or 4 games have shown to me that we've got the players, we've got the system, we've got the squad, we've got the chance to build a team that is more than capable of finishing this season strongly, very strongly in fact. I think we've probably too much time has gone past at the start of this season where we've been right down there at the bottom for it to be anything other than a mid-table finish. But if we carry on getting better at the rate that we are getting better at, and if we actually carry on building on what we've done the last few games, then I suspect we'd be around, 9th, 10th, 11th in this league. I don't think that this league is particularly good. I think it's a very, very even division, and I think that any team that can get enough confidence to go on a positive run soon appears right up at the top of the division. And conversely, any team like we have that goes on a bad run will find themselves right down near the bottom very, very quickly. So I think, we've had a bad run. If we have another bad run, we'll be fighting relegation all season. But if we've had our bad run and we go on now and even put together, a decent enough rest of season, then, we'll be fine. There are a lot of teams that are worse than us in this division.
Well, let me ask you three then. What do you think this team is now lacking? Right? What do you think we need to bring to this team to get us to that mid-table, or to spur us on for the rest of the season? If anything, do we?
Goals from strikers.
Absolutely.
Simple.
I think we've got the players. I think we've got enough strikers. I mean, Chris O'Grady. The fact he still gets continually linked with Barnsley wrecks me head because he's ours. Hands off, Pingles. That's held. But we've got O'Grady, we've got the goal machine, we've got Bothroyd in there at the minute. Do you know what I mean? We've got Rodri, who does seem to have gone missing, but he's not the player that we thought he was to start with. But you know what I mean? Every people go through dips in form. That's what happens, and he's probably got the Sheffield Wednesday curse of having his natural ability coached out of him. But But for me, I think we were missing Chris Limes. I genuinely believe we've been saying it for weeks that Chris Limes is a player that we've been missing purely because he's got some he's got some attack-minded passing ability. It's not like, because sometimes it's like watching a midfield of Gareth Barry and Michael Carrick. You know, every ball is sideways and backwards. Chris Lyons is excellent at those driving through balls and stuff like that. And when Lyons comes back, I think a player like Rodri, who's got a bit of pace and don't mind getting in and under defenders, I think he'll clean up. I think that's what we're missing.
You think
So
Lyons is going to get in the team?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a good point. But you think that we've got the strikers that are capable of shooting us out of this trouble that we're in at the bottom and upwards?
I think our strikers, especially O'Grady and I think Bothroyd and I think Medine are similar types of player. They're all your big number 10s in terms of old money football. Do you know what I mean? They're all big strikers where they're all lump it up to the red. That's essentially it. They'll hold the ball.
That's my problem. That's my problem, though, Fudge. I like our strikers, and bearing in mind that up until him getting injured this week, they were talking about Maguire going out on loan. I think that our strikers are all very similar. To me, they are not. I hate to use the phrase. They are not natural goal scorers, poachers, if you like, sniffers. That they all seem to bring very similar qualities to the game, and I think we're just lacking that that sniffer instinct, if you like. And I wonder if that's why Maguire was going to be going out on loan, and we may be looking at bringing somebody in like that, somebody in.
I'll tell you what, like we said this before, Chris Maguire is a Derby County reserve. That's what he was. I don't know why the Christ we signed him, and if he wants to go out on loan, he can for me. He's done note. As harsh as that sounds. But we've got three very similar strikers, and I think if we had a midfielder playing different types of ball as opposed to what we've been trying the last 10 games, I think the missing link is an attacking midfielder. Because Nejic Pechnic, or whatever the holy hell his name is.
Picnic. We've been through this. He's been anglicised.
Or Tubes from Soccer AM. He's gash. That's all I've got to say.
He's just picked for Slovenia. He's our international star now, official.
I think Slovenia are banging trouble. I think he does a lot of huffing and puffing, and the kid is clearly overweight. He looks like a scaled down John Parkin.
Blimey, if he's overweight, I'm in some serious trouble. I disagree with you. I quite like Pechnic. I think he's fine. He's a squad player at the moment, but I think he could get better. We've all through this season we've had various problems. Now we seem to have sorted ourselves out at the back, and I know we're still shipping the odd goal, but by and large we seem to have sorted ourselves out at the back.
Gordon seems to have got his smeg together.
Yeah, it does. Apart from the odd mistake against Ipswich, which we didn't get punished for. But they're all going to make mistakes. Even with Daniel Jones there at left back, we're getting through it as a defensive unit. The midfield looks pretty solid to me. It's just up front sniffing them goals out because we are creating situations where we're not finishing them off.
I'm going to take Jay Bothroyd out of the equation here because as far as his effectiveness for us is concerned, he's more in that midfield bracket. He's part of that core in midfield that have actually done most of the damage for us. And Antonio on the other side, I'm not counting them as strikers for the purposes of this discussion. If you look at who we've got O'Grady, who doesn't look like he can score goals at this level consistently, and I don't like to say that because I'm desperate for Chris O'Grady to succeed. I think he's a brilliant player. He looks like a prototypical footballer, but he doesn't look like he's going to score goals consistently at this level. Medina's disappeared off the face of the earth in terms of his ability to put the ball in the net, as much as he seems to be trying hard, and his attitude seems to be right. He doesn't look like he can score at this level. Rodri, completely unproven. Apart from his first game for us, hasn't made any impact when he's come in. So I don't think he can score goals at this level. And so that, it's my main worry is that we are going to be in a position where we are going to miss the chance to take 3 points out of games because our goals are coming from Antonio out on one flank, or Bothroyd out on the other flank, or Ross Barkley in the middle, and we're not going to actually be sniffing out those chances and getting it done in the box. You look at, and I'm not saying we should have been in there for the ludicrous amount of money that was paid for him, but you look at a Jordan Rhodes. He's there at the moment winning games for Blackburn, when they were looking at 1 point, and he's in the box and he's finishing it. And that's all we need right now. I think it would complete this team and turn it into a team that is on the up and up in this division rather than worrying about hovering down near the bottom. Would be someone who can just get those vital goals that are pinging around and not have to worry about it coming out to the edge of the box to fire back in. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know. I've looked and seen who's available around there. I don't think there are too many players who fit that bill. I suspect we're probably going to have to spend some money in January if we continue in this vein.
By the way, chaps, I've got some breaking news. My apologies. We've very rarely do we get a mention on BBC Sports, and I was just having a neb while you lads were chatting amongst yourselves. And Mikel Antonio is thanking the Wednesday faithful for sticking by the team through our 10-match winless run. Me personally, I think that the reason for this, the fact that we've not jumped on their back and there's not been a massive amount of us shouting Jones out. I know there's been a few young kids shouting it, but they don't know. They don't know things. And I know there's been some people saying it, but yeah, I think that's testament to the fact that we've been losing, but we've not been playing tremendously awful. Because sometimes when you're at the bottom of the league and nothing's going right, it looks like a comedy of errors. It bounces off the defender's ass. It looks like, do you know what I mean? And somebody dives in, it comes off his ear and goes in the net, stuff like that. We've actually not played badly. I thought we gave Blackburn a game. Do you know what I mean? Other thing, and I think that's why the team have stuck by. That's why the fans have stuck by the team, purely because we haven't been playing tremendously awful.
Yeah, it is without a doubt. Fans are going to games and they can see that the players are trying. They can see that they're putting the effort in. They can see that there's some structure and an idea behind what we're trying to create, or what Dave Jones is trying to create here. And it's just not coming off.
Let's be honest. September wasn't good. Started with that Palace game. We then had, I'd say, 4 or 5 games where we were pretty bad. We looked like a team that was in trouble, and we didn't offer very much. But kind of starting with that Burnley game, where it was a feast of goals. And I know we said that maybe this was the point we'd now kick on, and we didn't. But that Burnley game showed a few green shoots of recovery. I thought we were very unlucky not to get anything out of the Hull match. I thought we were very, very unlucky not to beat Leeds. We should have put Leeds away 3-4-0 in the first half. And I think, like you said, Fudge, against Blackburn, we gave a good account of ourselves. And to be honest, if that goal hadn't gone in so early, I think that game would have been very different as well. So I think in October at least, we've shown that we can compete at this level, and that's why I'm positive about the rest of the season. As I said, my one worry is that we're going to rely too much on goals from anywhere other than number 9 and number 10.
Yeah, I agree. I need to bring this up though, chaps, as well. I know you covered the Leeds game last week in my absence, but the week before, during the Leeds game, I was up in Leeds. It was really odd. My brother was getting married, and all the family were there in this god awful pub in Leeds. In fact, you guys have got kids, so you've probably been to these pubs. Like these Brewers Fair, Chuck E. Cheese.
Wacky Warehouse, that kind of thing. Oh my God,
yeah. Christ Almighty! Absolute bloody nightmare it was. I was pulling my eyes out after about 10 minutes. So I thought, I'm going to watch the Owls game round the corner. So I just happened to go missing while everybody sat there with the kids, and I've got a little 10-year-old brother. And he came with me to come and watch the Wednesday game. Now, I took him to his first Wednesday game last year, and it was the West Ham Cup game where we beat West Ham 1-0. And since then, my mum's taken him to a good few games since. And so we're stood there watching this game, and I said to him, "Look, Tom, we're right in their throats. Do you know what I mean? We're right in their back garden. So if we score, you might have to just keep a bit of a lid on it. Do you know what I mean? Just keep it down." So obviously, when we went 1-0 up, I'm not kidding, he went, "Yeah!" Yeah, he did the little dance, and like this big old meathead, this big old Leeds jebber turned around. He went, "You're brave, aren't you?" I went, "Yeah," and I yeah. So I turned around to her. I said, just so everybody can, I said, "Oh, you've got to keep that down in here, mate." And then I bent down and went, "That was brilliant. That was brilliant. Do that again." That was great. So I had to then say to my mum, I said, "Mum, if we win this game about 4 or 5-0, I'll be the one in the corner full of glass." Yeah. So I've got to give my little brother Tom a big shout there, because he was flying the Wednesday flag right in there.
Good lad.
Lad.
Love that.
Top class.
Are you sick to death of that guy that stands up in front of you at the football? Annoying, isn't it? What about that guy that stands up to shout at your favourite player? No good at all. Well, ladies and gents, the Wednesday week have got the perfect solution for you. The sit-down stick. That's right, ladies and gents. The sit-down stick can keep that view open to you all game long. Hey, there he is, standing up again. Sit down. And that's that guy. He's going to shout at JJ. Sit down. Hey, look at that guy. He's going to shout at the referee. Yeah, we'll leave him alone. He's okay. You know it makes sense, ladies and gentlemen. You know what to do to keep your view. Buy yourself the sit-down stick today. The sit-down stick is not a real product, and the Wednesday week do not condone violence in any way whatsoever. Anybody that thinks so is an absolute numpty.
So then, chaps, let's crack on a little bit of Wednesday news. Eddie, I do believe you have a little bit from us from a secret behind closed doors game.
Yeah, the Wednesday play, now we don't have an official reserve team, etc. We've got development squad games, under 21 games and all this sort of stuff. Well, we had a behind closed doors game against our near neighbours, Doncaster Rovers. I don't know whether you remember them. They were a club that were apparently Premiership bound about 2 or 3 seasons ago.
Talking about the Northern Barcelona?
Exactly, yeah, they're the very same, yeah. So yeah, I don't know what's happened to them these days. I've noticed that most of my mates from Doncaster who used to see Hillsborough an awful lot, but then became lifelong Rovers fans, are now back at Hillsborough. So I can only assume they've gone out of business or something. But yes, we played a behind closed doors game against them. Now Wednesday won. I think it was 4-2. I don't think that's particularly interesting. We played quite a strong team actually. Including a return for Chris Lines, who we've talked about. He came through the entire game, which is fantastic because that shows that he's there or thereabouts, ready to be considered for selection, so we can actually put to bed all his ideas of, is he going to change our season? Is he good enough? Is he not? We're going to find out for sure. But we also had what Chris Lines on Twitter described as a big name trialist. This big name trialist scored a goal in the match as well. So I don't know whether that indicates that maybe he's an attacking minded player, maybe a striker. But yes, the interwebs have been buzzing with the identity of this chap. So I don't know whether you gents have heard anything about who he might have been.
I suppose none of us know what a big name is to Chris Lines, do we? That's where we need to
Jethro. I think Jethro is the name.
Well, that's the problem that we have. So, come on then. You must have heard something. You've got your ear to the ground, Eddie. Yeah,
the names that have been bandied around have been a little bit silly, but one of them that seems to have gained a little bit of traction, certainly on Owls Talk, and again, just like Twitter, if it's on Owls Talk, it can't possibly be false, was Mikel Silvestre, which would be an interesting one.
From? Where did Mikel Silvestre come from?
He's come from France, I think.
Hey,
there we go.
I'm just on Owls Talk now, looking at it. Obviously, a lot of people saying it's Jason Kumas. He's been linked with this for I think a year now, hasn't it? Somebody else has mentioned Peter Beardsley.
And live here, don't you?
And James Beattie, he was training with us for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's not him, is it? But getting closer, and I'll tell you.
Go on.
Patrick Kluivert. You heard it here first.
Hold on.
Well, I must admit, Beastie, you were correct about the Bothroyd situation. I mean, his name was banded out for some time, and you said it was a done deal, and he came.
I've said it now, Patrick Kluivert.
No, yeah, absolutely. Watch this space for that one. Of course, speaking of ins and outs and things like that, Fudge, you've been keeping an eye on one of our loanees.
Have I?
Did you go over to Tranmere to watch him extensively over the last week?
Oh yes. Right, we're back. Yeah, sorry.
Piece of Segway magic. Another piece of Segway magic.
Segway magic. It's a patented Fudge segue, right?
You know what? I write all these beautiful segues out. I give it
Hey!
perfect professional.
I tell you what's funny is the amount of times we do it. Like, do you know what I mean? It's not just me. It's not just me. The amount of times
Yeah.
Oh, right. Cheers, mate. Yes, I have, Lord Aylesbury. Yes, I've been talking about one of our loanees, Liam Palmer. Liam Palmer, I thought was a player with a bright future. Even in the season we were in League One, the 2 seasons we were down in League One, Liam Palmer for me was one of our standout players at times, and obviously because of the influx of players we've had at the club, we've not been able to get some first team football, but Tranmere have. He's gone to Tranmere, he's got in the team, and I need to clear this up because Clinton Morrison had a rough time with it last year. Some footballers, some of them, like playing football. This may come as a shock to you. Some players like playing football, and all Liam Palmer has said is, I'm getting first team football here at Tranmere. If they extend my loan, that wouldn't be so bad. That wouldn't be a disaster. Now, Wednesday fans, we don't need to get on the back of Liam Palmer like we did with Clinton Morrison when he said he wouldn't mind stopping at Brentford to play some football. And we all said, well, there you are, you can sit and rot there. Don't want to.
Not everybody.
All right, not everybody.
You have to be careful what we say here, chaps, because of course there is a sort of court case with Beastie involved for all those people who did say those awful things about.
Don't lump me in with you lot.
Speaking of lumping in, by the way, after you lot stitched me up the other week with Katie Livingston, did you notice that she tweeted me?
Katie Livo tweeted you.
Katie Livo tweeted me after you guys were stitching me up the other week, telling me that making it out like I've got some weird fascination with me.
Have you favourited it?
I've just now. So I've just done it that second. It says, well, what it was after that show that we put out, where you guys were ribbing me about trying to get her on the show for an interview. Of course, that's all I was doing. In no way was I just trying to, open up some dialogue with her.
Is that a euphemism?
Yeah, it is a bit. In my mind, it's just an interview, but in my real mind, no, it is a euphemism.
Don't go there.
So anyway, yeah, you guys and a couple of listeners stitched me up. They started tagging me in tweets and her as well. And so she's obviously listened to the show, and she tweeted me the last week saying, "Listen to the podcast. Here's a tweet so you don't think I'm biased to Beastie. P.S. His tweets are funny though."
Ooh. There you go.
So I weren't having that. So I went with, I promise I'm not mental or anything, but yes, Beasties are funny if you like your misspelled nonsense.
Oh,
Controversy
at the Wednesday week.
I think you're in danger of getting friend zoned there, though, Fudgy. I think she's got a bit of a thing for Beastie, and you've got to cut a run. Lay your cards out and tell her, are you up for it or not?
Yeah. I think I'm just going to go with that. But she's retired now. She's not a modern pentathlete anymore. She's given it up. Bit of breaking news there, in case anybody didn't know.
We all give that. You were the last to know, in fact.
No, yeah. Well, what did she do? Roll over and give you a nudge and tell you?
Yeah, maybe.
So that's the news from the Modern Pentathlete Week, and on crack, chaps. Of course, if Mrs. Livingston is listening, of course, it's an absolute pleasure to have you listening. And if you do ever want to come on the show, I'm sure Fudge will be absolutely ecstatic. On with Pop, and another little bit of news as well. We seem to be having a little bit of trouble down at the training ground, Beastie.
Are we? Oh, you mean with this little bit of a bug that the ball picked up?
I don't know why I bother.
The rest of us just get on with life and go to work, but when footballers get a bit of a sniffle and a cold or screaming abdabs, then they're all over the place, aren't they? They can't move. Yeah, okay, so they've picked up a bit of lurgy. So what? It's not news, is it, really?
Well, apparently, Mr. Gardner, it is possible he may miss the Peterborough game due to the squits, shall we say.
Right, so he's not turning in for work just because he's got a bit of a jippy tummy. Wow. I thought he was a big, tough centre half. Something like this is what finally lays him out, is it?
I've got to say, in his defence, though, most of us, if we have a bit of a dicky tummy and there's a danger of having the squits at work, it isn't going to manifest itself in front of a crowd of 25,000 people.
Well,
if I do that, if I have a bit of a bad moment and I end up having to squat in a corner over a bin, it's probably going to be witnessed by Debbie in accounts. And as much as she's lovely, that doesn't really bother me.
Do with that?
No, she's sick in the head. She's a deviant.
I mean, hang on. Let's. I can't believe you're writing this off as a dicky tummy. Bear in mind, Anthony Gardner plays in the same team as Stephen Bywater, who's got pneumonia. Surely this is a precautionary measure. Jesus got pneumonia. Well, that's a matter.
Well, I'll tell you why. But I know you find it hard to understand, but we're northern.
Oh, right. Fair enough, yeah.
And when we get pneumonia or leprosy or something minor like that, or cholera, yeah, we tend to just struggle on a little bit. You know what I mean? You know, when I was a lad, I remember having. We used to call it double pneumonia when I was a lad. That's how bad it was, right? And I used to do my paper down with it. Right? None of this. Oh, you can't. You take a day off.
Hovis advert music, please.
I'd get up in the morning, right? It'd be foggy as chuff, right? I'd be coughing my lungs up, right? And I'd go out in my little shorts and on my scooter, go down and get my bag, put all my papers in. I'd be coughing all the way around. But did I stop? No. Every one of them papers got delivered, and they were all uphill.
Of course, we all remember the scenes. I don't know if you do, chaps, of Mr. Lineker having something of a problem on the same sort of. We had to. I don't know if you've ever seen if you any of you chaps have got a pet dog and you've ever seen him scoot along the floor, wiping his bottom.
I don't understand.
Mr. Lineker had that problem.
And you suggested that's what I used to do. How did we get onto this?
I just don't want Mr. Gardner to have the same problem.
All right.
Saturday, Beastie.
So, I'll tell you what, I'd pay extra to see that.
Yeah, I think you and Debbie from accounts would be a very happy couple, Beastie. So, chaps, on with pop. Fudge, do you have your judge's wig there, old boy?
Yes, order in the court. It's Judge Fudge time, ladies and gents. Have we got like a sting to put in there, like a bit of music? Like, Judge Fudge time. Hang on, that's weak.
Fine. Absolutely fine. Very well done, old boy. So, where you go, Judge?
So this week, order in the court. This week we were going to discuss centre backs in our Wednesday. What do we call it? The reserve 11, the developmental 11. That we've got. This week we're going to be defending 3 players of the centre back position, and the first one is Peter Atherton.
Oh, yeah, that'll be me, chaps. Yes, Mr. Atherton, of course. First things first, rather a square gentleman. Remember the shape of the chap. It was a very interesting shape. I had to have a special shirt made to fit his rather cubed shoulders, shall we say. Came from us in June 1994, back in the good old days, from Coventry. £800,000. Can you remember those days, gents, when we used to spend £800,000 on a defender?
Is that how much it cost us?
Absolutely. Bearing in mind that we sold Count Palmer that very same season for £2.5 million. But yes, those were the days when we could spend that kind of cash on a defender, and he came and a shaky start. Of course, we were used to Mr. Nielsen did take up the number 2 shirt from Roland, so we had some pretty big boots to fill. Top chap, of course, I'm sure you chaps will remember, sat down at the Cop. One of his favourite phrases that he used to shout constantly was "lift it." I'm not exactly sure what he was lifting at the time, but he did rather like to shout "lift it" quite a lot. Yeah, I mean, of course, ended up being Wednesday captain again, player of the season, 1995. But one of the most famous games Mr. Atherton played in, well, I say famous, was a 1-0 victory for the Owls away at Liverpool at Anfield. An absolutely belting game. Mr. Atherton was marking, who was at the time one of the best players in the country, certainly in the country, almost I would go so far as say the world, was Steve McManaman. Absolutely marked him out of the game.
Who was that, Lord Hillsborough?
McManaman.
Who was that?
Absolutely marked him out of the game. It was a very, very, very good game. It did end Liverpool's rather good run at home at that point as well. Mr. Guy Whittingham netting at 32 years old at the time, I say. Mr. Pressman in the net had a fantastic game. If you do ever get a chance to watch that game, please go ahead. It was an absolute belter. Of course, right. It did. Not finished yet, old boy. Back.
Oh, come on. This is worse than Eddie's last week.
How rude. He did end up leaving us to go over there to Bradford with Mr. Nolan as well. Both of them went on a free. But I'm sure you'll agree, chap, he did a jolly good job while I was here. And maybe I was a little bit dubious last week about putting him in the reserve 11. But, of course, thinking back to some of the chaps we've had back there, I think maybe Mr. Atherton would maybe not squeeze into the first 11, but definitely any kind of Wednesday reserve 11.
All right, that was Peter Atherton. Bloody hellfire, Lord H. All right, then.
Sorry, chaps.
Next up, ladies and gents, to plead their case to get into the second 11, Stephen Haslam. Eddie, is that you?
No, that's me.
All right. Once again, another segue from Fudge there. Beastie, tell me about Stephen Haslam, for the love of God himself.
Well, Lord H has just taken 30 minutes there to defend what is basically a box. And without a doubt, he should be in, because Azzy is way too good to be in this rubbish 11. I mean, he's only 33 now, and that's younger than some of the defenders that we've got playing for us. But uncannily enough, right, you've just mentioned Peter Atherton there, and Azzy, as our Wednesday fans used to call him, cost £800,000 less than Peter Atherton. And I think that is a spooky statistic. That's just off the top of my head there. Now, it's easy to mock someone like Azzy, especially when now he's playing at Fylde, having just been released by Hartlepool. But in 1995, he captained the England schoolboys team, and they had a 1-0 victory over a Brazilian side that included Ronaldinho. And in that England schoolboys team, there were the likes of Wes Brown, Michael Ball, Michael Owen, right? Now, you tell me, how does he go from being the captain of the England schoolboys to part-time football at Fylde in Lancashire?
That's the way that it works at Sheffield Wednesday. That's what we do for players.
Well, there must be just Sheffield Wednesday that can break young, exciting footballers like that. With untapped skill and flair, we just suck the life out of them, don't we?
Did we not, in that England schoolboys, did we not have like 3 players in that team?
I remember one game, there were about 5. There were 5 from Wednesday and 5 from Everton.
Yeah. We were just at that period. Wednesday were quite prolific in producing good, exciting, upcoming players, weren't we? And Hazzy were one of them. And I don't. You lot are probably a little bit too young, but I remember when he started his first game, and he was alongside Des Walker at the back, and everybody thought this lad is going to be something else. And now he's alongside Des Walker. He's got the perfect man to educate him and bring him through.
Absolutely.
But then Lord H's hero got hold of him, Chris Turner. Absolutely ruined the lad. He moved him from defence, he put him in midfield, and it was way out of his depth in midfield. And the Wednesday fans got on his back, and he just started to... You could see his body language started to change, and he wasn't enjoying his football. And before you knew it, he was on his way with the lad, and he went to Halifax and Northampton for a couple of games. Then went back to Halifax for a few years before ending up at Hartlepool. But besides
Where
all
incidentally Chris Turner's back in charge, by the way.
Yeah.
besides all that wonderful talent that we squeezed out of him, one thing that me and the young'un always noticed about Hazzy was his beautiful skin. You have never had a footballer at Sheffield Wednesday with skin as beautiful, as glowing and soft-looking as Hazzy's. And take it from me, right, because I've got very good skin myself for an 82-year-old man. But that lad, once he retires from football, L'Oreal will be all over him. Right? He has got a future away from football. And that's all I have. The wonderful, wonderful Stevie Hazzy Haslam.
All right. So, Peter Atherton, Stephen Haslam, Eddie, we're going from beautiful skin to, at one point, beautiful hair. Tell us about Mel Sterling.
Zeke. Right, number one, I don't mean disrespect to you, Your Honour, my lord, learned friends, etc.
Right.
But there is no way that Mel Sterling should even be in this discussion. Mel Sterling is nailed on to be in any Sheffield Wednesday first 11 of all time, full stop. The man was my absolute hero growing up. He's an incredible player. And I'm also a fan of robbing post offices, so I mean that it helps.
He's in the Crime Stoppers 11, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. So no, right. So I'm gonna plead no contest to that one. I'm not going to defend Mel Sterling. What I was thinking of, because we've got Stephen Haslam, and we've seen a man who had all of the talent in the world, and it coached out of him at Wednesday, which happens an awful lot. And he's also a beautiful, beautiful man. So I thought I'd set up a counterpoint to that by picking a player that Wednesday couldn't ruin, and he became an absolute legend away from the club. But he's also a deeply, deeply ugly human being, and that man is Gotchi Sidlowski. If any of you don't remember the Iron Man of the Carpathians, as you would know, Google him. If you just Gotchi, G-O-C-E, Sedlowski, exactly as you'd imagine it, you'll see that he is possibly the only footballer who played his entire career with his face on inside out.
Don't forget his monobrow.
Yeah, and a ridiculous monobrow. He really does look like a throwback. He only played 4 games for Wednesday, and maybe that was why he was so successful everywhere else, because as a Macedonian, he played over 100 times for his country. I can't think of another Wednesday player who's played over 100 times for any country. I don't think even Nielsen played more than 100 times for Sweden, did he? So, clearly this guy is a hero in his homeland. And so when I was looking at him, I looked at, obviously, the first place to go is Facebook to see what he's doing now, because I don't think he's playing anymore. He must be 40. So I went on Facebook and tried to find him. Well, I'm not being funny. Most people use Facebook to try and make themselves look better than they actually are, and maybe shark for girls a little bit. Well, Gotchi Sedlowski's Facebook page has a picture of him that I can only say looks like the worst mugshot ever. And then there's a very out of focus Macedonian flag, but he's got 1,444 likes, and there's one of his fans, clearly some sort of mad fan, who's posted twice about a goal that he scored against Andorra for his country. So, he's clearly fondly regarded in Macedonia. And so I'd like to say to him, he came to Sheffield Wednesday, probably had an idea that he was going into the Premier League, he was going to be a big star, make lots of money, and maybe he didn't ever hit those heights that he imagined in terms of becoming a global star. But as a result of only playing 4 games for us, he managed to then have a successful football career in his own country, amassing over 100 caps and never having to play at home for Fylde Town. So, Gotchi Sidlowski, I think, for being the one that got away, the man who beat the Wednesday curse, I think you deserve to be in our reserve 11.
All right. Order in the court. Settle down. That was extra evidence there added on to the end. And to be honest, Eddie, I do agree with you. I think Mel Sterling would be very close to a Wednesday Super 11. and he did have the best hair. I think for a lot of Wednesday fans, though, the reason he probably won't get into the first 11 is that he was in that god-awful Sean Bean nonsense film When Saturday Comes, and he's wearing the wrong colour Sheffield stripes.
Yeah, he's dead to us now, isn't he?
He's dead to us. Stephen Haslam, beautiful skin does not get you in our first 11.
Stephen Haslam.
Stephen Haslam. Because you said we played him next to Des Walker, and he had somebody great next to him to teach him how to get on. But he didn't spend a lot of time with Des Walker. He spent more time with our next candidate, Peter Atherton. And what Stephen Haslam seemed to do was pick up that unique talent that Peter Atherton had of going to attack a ball on the halfway line and just backing off until they were right deep inside 18. He used to frustrate me to death. I used to scream at him. And Peter Atherton, for me, used to look like a school bully at our school, Gavlee. He had a ridiculously bent nose, and the fact that we paid £800,000 for Peter Atherton, that is 16 Chris Lines.
Good point. Well made. One other
perspective. That
one small other point about
the box.
The box is that his name is actually an anagram of the Penetrator.
Well, hang on. This changes everything. Wait a minute. So, bent noses. This brings me on to Gochi Sedlowski, who clearly has some kind of Yorkshire in him because he's got a nose like Mick McCarthy.
Can I just say, also, when the first time I saw Gochi Sedlowski's monobrow, I thought it was a sweatband. It frightened me slightly when I realised it was his eyebrow.
So, with the exception of Steve Haslam, we seem to have picked the ugliest players that have ever. That seem to have that were in our ugly 11 from about 3 weeks ago, and in the reserve 11, I'm going to put in the wild card that Eddie dropped in. Gochi Sedlowski. He's uglier than the rent book. He got 100 caps for his country, and he's got a nose like McCarthy. I'm going to stick him in, ladies and gents. Order! I have decreed.
Oh, fair play, old boy, fair play. So in goes to the Judge Fudge. Not quite as good as the proper 11. Right, so chaps, on with Pop. And finally, shall we do a little review of the game coming up? Peterborough, the posh, as it turns out, posh my eye. And chaps, I believe they've gone on somewhat of a run just recently. Had a decent couple of home wins against Derby and before that Huddersfield as well. And I'm sure it will be touted around as our relegation rivals in the press. What do we think, chaps? Are we going to take that confidence into this game, or are they going to have a bit of their own?
We've got to take confidence, haven't we? We've been playing well. We've got a good result away from home. We're back on our own turf. It'll be a decent crowd. Something really, I've been hanging on to it probably a little bit too long now, but we owe them one. For that last game of Alan Irvin's in charge down at theirs, we owe them one. We owe them a right good thrashing. So hopefully Saturday is that game.
Chaps, is there anybody we need to be particularly worried about, do you think, looking at the Peterborough side?
Well, I tell you what, obviously we'll talk about George Boyd. They've got George Boyd there, who is their big fish in Little Pond. He reminds me of, for example, when Alan Smith was playing for Leeds. The one player that stands out above the rest that then, when goes somewhere else, is average. I mean, George Boyd is not Ronaldinho in his heyday, do you know what I mean? But he seems to be the standout flair player for them. I remember he went on loan a couple of years ago to Nottingham Forest and didn't exactly set the world alight, and I can't even understand how Peterborough let him go there, but Ferguson wasn't in charge. The player I need to keep an eye, I think we should keep an eye out for is Mendes Lang, or Mendes Lang, I think it's pronounced. He's a young kid and he's quite exciting, and I think he's a player to look out for. He's a player that we're going to need to be on our game with. But they've got that. It's Peterborough with that midfield who just looks like a fat bloke from the pub, isn't he? Is it Tomlin?
Yeah, it is Tomlin, isn't it?
They've got
him and Boswick, haven't they? across the middle. And like I say, Bostwick, I think, is very much like a Paul Corrie character, or a Ross Barkley. I mean, he's a young, attacky, sort of passionate, fiery, thrusting kind of midfielder. Whereas, like you say, Tommy looks like a fat pub player, doesn't he? He looks like he's won a raffle to be in there. But yes, but I don't think you look down that Peterborough team and you don't see. There aren't names there that strike fear instinctively into the heart of any Wednesday fan. I'm sure the Wednesday players, but let's not forget they're a team that are on a bit of a run. I think 3-0 probably flattered them against Derby at the weekend. They were late goals that they scored, but they are a team who can score goals. So I think it's important for us to keep that. That defensive solidity going and improving and moving forward, because they're a team that kind of throw themselves forward an awful lot, and we're going to have to deal with that, and hopefully they'll be a bit rubbish at the back in traditional Peterborough style over the last few seasons, and we'll be able to capitalise on that. But I think get them on the back foot early, impose ourselves on the game, and certainly don't give the crowd any excuse to start thinking this isn't a particularly good performance. We need to actually really get at them and get the crowd behind us. And I can't say anything else other than a win.
There, Eddie, with Beastie. You've mentioned the crowd getting on the players' backs. Are you ready for this now?
Here he goes. Go on, Beastie, rev up.
Yeah, you know my views on this. The crowd need to get behind them.
I'll tell you what, Beast,
right?
We think we know your views on it, but we don't understand what you're writing. So,
Right, well, for a start, you're not going to be there to get on the back of Lewis Buxton, are you? Right? Lewis has been playing really well since you got off his back. So, it's you that's been holding him back. But, they'll have somebody to pick on Wednesday fans for a start, won't they? Because they'll have that Mendes Lang. He was at Blades last year, I think, wasn't he? So there's going to be a few choice comments headed his way. So they've already got a start there. I think the Wednesday fans are going to love it. I do think they're going to love it. I think the players will turn it on. I think they'll take a lot of a big boost from that Ipswich game, and I just see us winning.
So, chaps, let's have a prediction. Fudgy.
Oh, Jesus. I'm going to say, well, it's a Peterborough game, isn't it? So I'm going to say it's going to be 4-3 to the Wednesday.
Oh, interesting. Edward?
Yeah, I think there's going to be goals in it as well. It wouldn't surprise me to see us concede, but I suspect it's going to be something of a 3-1 or a 4-2.
Either be slurping his tea or doing whatever he was supposed to be doing. Beastie, would you like to give us a prediction of one?
Yeah. Both of them are absolutely ridiculous. You can take this to the bank. Get your money down at the bookies now. 5-1 to Wednesday. Don't listen to them two and their ridiculous scorelines. 5-1 to Wednesday. Take it to the bank. That is solid gold.
Oh, just while you're speaking about that, Beastie, how did your bets go from last week?
Next.
I think what it Beastie who was looking at a 0-0 after extra time and penalties finish in that Reading Arsenal game in the week.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh dear. Right, chaps. So I do believe that brings us to the end of the show. All that's left for us to do is sign off ever so slightly. Beastie, where can people get hold of your boy?
Once again, I'll be on owlsalive.com or on Twitter @Beastie_.
Thank you very much. Fudge, where can people get hold of your boy?
You can get on me on Twitter @Fudge and Dave, because everybody's got a mate called Dave. I've also got another Twitter account called A Cave Called Dave. Get on that. It's a right laugh of cave-based nonsense.
And if you can find Mr. Fudge over there on Facebook, please do pop over. There's a very interesting photo of Mr. Fudge over there.
Yes.
We'll leave that at that, shall we? Edward, where can people get hold of your boy?
I'm on Twitter as well. It's what all the kids are doing these days. At Sausage Arms, or if you happen to be at Hillsborough on Saturday, I'm usually holding a massive flag. So come and see me.
And of course, then you can get hold of me over there on Twitter at Lord H. That's L0RD_H. You can also get over the Wednesday Week over there on Twitter at TWWcast. That's our Twitter page over there. And of course, for all other means of contacting us, the Facebook and everything else, you can go over to our brand spanking new website. That's www.thewednesdayweek.com. We're also keeping our eyes out for bloggers. We've had a few interests. Hopefully, we shall see some blogs up there soon, and anything else The Wednesday Week based you can find over there. So, gentlemen, let's have a roaring, get the out lads going. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Oh my word.
That was good.
And it's a very goodbye from me, chaps, and we shall see you very soon.
Here's a chance here. A great save. A turner from McClare. Might come. A terrific goal by Sheridan.
Brexman against Jones. Get in.
You could have two goalkeepers in there, they would have trouble saving that.
The Wednesday